Word stay. Description refers to a period of time spent in a place. It describes the duration of your time spent somewhere, such as a hotel, a friend's house, or a city. It implies remaining or lodging in a specific location for a while. Phrases of example. First, I will stay here, and I will be brave. Second, stay, dear friend, and hear my tale. Third, we must stay strong, even when we are afraid. Word socialist. Description describes a political system advocating public ownership or control of production and resources. It emphasizes social equality and collective well-being, often involving government intervention in the economy and redistribution of wealth. Phrases of example. First, the socialist ideal as it stood in his mind was a lovely thing. The picture of Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde. Second, he was a fervent socialist, believing in the power of collective action. A People's History of the United States, Howard Zinn. Third, socialist policies often spark intense debates about economic fairness and individual liberty. The New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander. Word look. Description means to direct your eyes in a specific direction. It can also mean to try to find or understand something. It's a very common verb used to describe what your eyes are doing or when trying to find something. Phrases of example. First, look, I can't do this anymore. Second, look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. Third, look around you, Harry. Really look. Word interior. Description describes the inner or central part of something. It refers to what is hidden, not visible from the outside, or relating to the inside of a building or object. It suggests a sense of privacy, complexity, or a hidden quality. Phrases of example. First, the interior of the house was filled with shadows and dust. Second, he stared at the interior of the building, its vastness overwhelming. Third, the novel delves into the interior world of a troubled mind. Word blast. Description means a sudden, violent explosion or a powerful gust of something, like wind. It can also describe something extremely good or impressive, often used informally. Context determines the specific meaning. It's often figurative. Phrases of example. First, it was the blast of an unknown power, a force that shattered all sense of reality. Second, a sudden blast of cold air hit him, a reminder of the winter that was waiting outside. Third, the past came back to him in a sudden blast, a wave of memories he could not escape. Word expect. Description means to believe that something will happen or that someone will do something. It implies a feeling of anticipation or certainty about a future event or action. It can also suggest a feeling of entitlement or a planned outcome. Phrases of example. First, I do not expect to see you again. Second, you should expect a greater storm. Third, I expect nothing but disappointment. Word figure. Description means to calculate or work out an answer, often roughly or without precise calculation. It can also mean to understand or realize something, often after some thought or consideration. It's about arriving at a conclusion or comprehension. Phrases of example. First, she had to figure out what she wanted to do with her life. Second, they tried to figure out how to solve the problem. Third, he would figure out a way to win the game. Word observe. Description means to watch carefully, notice, or pay attention to something. It can also mean to record or study a phenomenon to understand it better. It implies a deliberate and focused act of watching or examining. Phrases of example. First, I love to observe people. It's a most entertaining pastime. Second, you must observe, and in observing, you must learn. Third, we must observe, analyze, and adapt. That is the way of survival. Word hotel. Description, a place where you can pay to stay for a short time. It provides rooms for travelers, often with services like restaurants and cleaning. It's a common place to stay when you are visiting a new city. Phrases of example. First, the hotel was a great place to stay. Second, I needed a hotel, a quiet room and a long soak in a bath. Third, we checked into the hotel, relieved to be out of the rain. Word, southern. Description, describes something relating to the southern part of the United States, or people things from that region. It can refer to geography, culture, accent, or style. It's used to indicate origin or characteristic of the American South. Phrases of example. First, the southern stars were shining brightly overhead. Second, he felt a southern drawl creep into his voice. Third, the southern landscape stretched out before them, vast and unforgiving. Word, approach. Description, refers to the manner in which something is done or faced. It can describe a way of dealing with a situation or a method used to achieve a goal. It often relates to strategy, behavior, or how something is presented. Phrases of example. First, his approach was not of a man who comes to a difficult place, but of one who goes to a new home. Second, there was a certain approach to life that he had, a method of dealing with the world that was all his own. Third, he took a new approach to the problem, one that was both radical and effective. Word, formula. Description, a set of instructions or rules to follow to achieve a specific result. It can refer to a mathematical equation, a recipe, or a plan for success. It suggests a precise and structured approach to solving a problem or creating something. Phrases of example. First, his formula for success was simple: hard work and determination. Second, the universe operates on a formula, not a whim. Third, it's a dangerous formula, but it works. Word, screen. Description, a thin, flat surface used to view something, like a TV or phone. It can also refer to a barrier that hides or protects something. It's a common object in daily life, used for both viewing and separation. Phrases of example. First, the screen was dark, but the images lingered in his mind. Second, she stared at the screen, lost in a world of light and color. Third, the flickering screen offered a distorted view of reality. Word, barrel. Description, a barrel is a large cylindrical container, often made of wood. Historically used for liquids and other goods, it now often refers to a specific measurement or can have figurative meanings relating to pressure or intensity. It has niche, technical, or idiomatic uses. Phrases of example. First, a man is not a barrel. Second, the whole world was a barrel of monkeys. Third, there was a barrel of fear in his stomach. Word, mental. Description, relating to the mind or mental processes. It describes thoughts, feelings, or activities happening within someone's mind. It can also refer to illnesses or conditions affecting cognitive functions or emotional well-being. Phrases of example. First, her mental state was fragile, a delicate balance on the edge of collapse. Second, it was a mental exercise, a way to escape the drudgery of his days. Third, he struggled with a mental block, unable to grasp the simplest of concepts. Word, tomato. Description, a fruit, botanically speaking, often used as a vegetable in cooking. It's red or sometimes other colors and eaten raw or cooked in many dishes. It's a common and familiar food item. Phrases of example. First, he liked to eat a big red tomato. Second, the sauce was rich with tomatoes and herbs. Third, she ate a tomato sandwich for lunch. Word, rather. Description, means in a way that is different from what was expected. It can also mean very or quite, especially when describing something negative. It's used to soften a statement or offer a slight correction. Phrases of example. First, I would rather die than give up my freedom. Second, rather, let us make our own path, Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. Third, he preferred rather, to observe and learn. Word, customer. Description, a person who buys goods or services from a business. It refers to someone who is a buyer or client and is often used in retail or service industries. It's a basic term for someone who pays for something. Phrases of example. First, the customer is always right, even when they are wrong. Second, a good customer is worth more than gold. Third, the customer's expectations were always his greatest challenge. Word spare. Description means available for use, not committed or used for another purpose. It suggests something is free or not currently engaged, ready to be utilized when needed. It often implies a reserve or extra quantity. Phrases of example. First, I'm afraid I can't spare you a moment. Second, he had no spare time for frivolity. Third, there was no spare room for the unexpected guest. Word effective. Description means able to produce a desired result or achieve a goal. It describes something that works well or has a positive impact. It's used to evaluate the success or usefulness of a method, plan, or product. Phrases of example. First, the best leaders are effective communicators. Second, a good lawyer must be effective and persuasive. Third, the medicine proved effective in treating the disease. Word any. Description means one or some of something, but not specific. It can also mean whatever or it doesn't matter. Used when quantity or choice isn't important or is indefinite. Often used in questions or negative statements. Phrases of example. First, you can't get any drunker than this, can you? Second, it didn't matter what he said, it wasn't any good. Third, I don't think it's any good to be a genius if you have to be miserable all the time. Word washing. Description refers to the action of cleaning something with soap and water. It can also describe clothes or dishes that are being cleaned or have been cleaned. It's a common word for everyday cleaning tasks. Phrases of example. First, the linen was all fresh from the washing. Second, she watched the clothes turning in the washing machine. Third, the suds of the washing were a comfort. Word hopeful. Description expresses optimism and anticipation for a positive outcome. It describes a feeling of expectation and confidence that something desired will happen. It suggests a belief in the possibility of success or a favorable result, often in uncertain situations. Phrases of example. First, hopeful though it was, the situation remained perilous. Second, she looked at him, a hopeful, searching look. Third, even the most hopeful heart can be broken. Word connection. Description refers to a relationship or link between people or things. It can describe a feeling of understanding, a physical joining, or a relationship. It is used when discussing relationships, links, or associations between different entities. Phrases of example. First, there is a connection between what you do and who you become. Second, we need to foster a connection with nature, or we are lost. Third, the connection was broken, and the world split into silence. Word explode. Description means to burst or shatter violently, often with a loud noise. It can describe a physical event, like a bomb detonating, or a figurative one, such as a sudden outburst of anger or emotion. Phrases of example. First, the volcano would explode and destroy everything. Second, his anger could explode at any moment. Third, the news would explode across the city. Word favor. Description means to support or prefer one thing or person over another. It indicates a bias or inclination towards something, often implying a deliberate choice or action to benefit it. It suggests a positive leaning or advocacy. Phrases of example. First, he did me a favor, even though I didn't ask for it. Second, to favor one over another is to invite conflict. Third, I would favor a more cautious approach to the problem. Word offensive. Description describes something causing strong displeasure or hurt feelings. It suggests the remark, action, or item is insulting, rude, or likely to provoke anger. It indicates a lack of respect or consideration towards someone. Phrases of example. First, his words were offensive, a slap in the face to everything she believed. Second, the imagery was deliberately offensive, meant to provoke a reaction. Third, such offensive behavior is not tolerated in this establishment. Word plenty. Description means a large amount or number of something. It indicates sufficiency or abundance, suggesting there's more than enough available. It can refer to things, time, or opportunities. Phrases of example. First, there was plenty of room for them both, but she would not have it. Second, there was plenty of time to do everything. Third, we have plenty of troubles without inventing more. Word unexpected. Description describes something that was not anticipated or predicted. It signifies a surprise or a deviation from what was generally expected. It's used to convey that something occurred without prior warning or planning. Phrases of example. First, he received an unexpected letter, a fragile hope in a time of despair. Second, an unexpected kindness often changes the course of a life. Third, the silence was unexpected, a stark contrast to the usual chaos. Word academy. Description: a prestigious institution focused on specialized learning, often in arts, sciences, or athletics. It suggests a higher level of education or training compared to standard schools, emphasizing excellence and advanced study within a specific field. Phrases of example. First, she had a scholarship to the academy, and it was her only hope of a better life. Second, he was a graduate of the Royal Military Academy, but he had learned more in the streets. Third, the academy was a place of learning, but also a place of secrets and lies. Word draw. Description means to pull something towards you or to create a picture with a pen or pencil. It can also mean to pull a vehicle with another, like a trailer. It's a common action verb with simple, visual meanings. Phrases of example. First, she drew a breath and prepared herself for the confrontation. Second, the artist drew inspiration from the vibrant colors of the sunset. Third, he drew closer, his eyes searching for any sign of life. Word can. Description refers to the contents of a tin or box, often food or drink. It describes what's inside a metal container and is a countable noun. It's used when talking about the contents of a specific container. Phrases of example. First, the best things in life you can't buy. Second, I can't even imagine what will happen next. Third, I can see it now, the final can. Word release. Description refers to the act of allowing someone or something to be free or available. It can signify a physical freeing, the distribution of a product, or the publication of information. It suggests a transition from restriction to openness. Phrases of example. First, the release from bondage was a moment of pure joy. Second, a film's release could be delayed for a variety of reasons. Third, the final release of his anger surprised even himself. Word surveillance. Description refers to the act of closely watching a person or place, often for security reasons. It implies systematic observation, frequently conducted discreetly. It's used when discussing monitoring, often by authorities or security personnel. Phrases of example. First, the city's surveillance apparatus was a silent, pervasive threat. Second, surveillance had become a dull ache in the background of their lives. Third, their every action was subject to constant surveillance, chilling their rebellion. Word result. Description means to end up or produce something as a consequence. It describes the outcome of an action or process. It implies a direct link between what happened and what followed. It can be used in many contexts. Phrases of example. First, the result of his actions would be a reckoning he could not escape. Second, the result of all our efforts was a quiet satisfaction. Third, such a result is not an accident, but a consequence. Word introduce. Description means to formally present someone or something to someone else. It's about making someone or something known, often for the first time. It can also mean to start a new law or system. Phrases of example. First, I will introduce you to a lady who will be pleased to know you. Second, let me introduce myself. My name is Henry Tilney. Third, he introduced himself and asked me about my work. Word, philosophical. Description, relating to the study of fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, values, and reason. It describes something characterized by deep thought, abstract concepts, and exploration of complex ideas, often detached from practical concerns. Phrases of example. First, the most philosophical we can get about the world is to give it up. Second, it is a philosophical argument about the nature of reality. Third, his philosophical views were shaped by his experiences in war. Word, maintenance. Description refers to the routine work needed to keep something in good condition. It encompasses repairs, servicing, and upkeep to ensure functionality and longevity. Often used in technical or business contexts, signifying ongoing effort. Phrases of example. First, the ongoing maintenance of the machinery proved a constant drain on resources. Second, regular maintenance prevents catastrophic failure, a lesson the city had forgotten. Third, building relationships requires the same maintenance as any other valuable asset. Word, measure. Description refers to a standard for comparison or a quantity used to assess something. It can be a physical dimension, a degree of something, or a step taken to achieve a goal. It often indicates a system of evaluation or a specific amount. Phrases of example. First, the measure of a man is what he does with his power. Second, it is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog that matters, A Time to Kill, John Grisham. Third, they take a measure of comfort from their memories. Word, certain. Description means to be sure about something. It can also describe a limited quantity or number. It shows a lack of doubt or a specific, defined amount. It's used to express confidence or to indicate a precise quantity. Phrases of example. First, I am certain that the past is gone. Second, there is a certain charm in the old times. Third, he was certain of one thing. He wanted to leave. Word, educated. Description describes someone who has received significant formal learning, typically through schooling or university. It signifies a level of knowledge and understanding gained through instruction and study. It can also imply refinement and sophistication. Phrases of example. First, she was an educated woman, which made her more interesting to me. Second, he was an educated man, but he still held some old. Third, to be educated is to be free. Word, traditional. Description describes something done or existing for a long time, following customs or beliefs. It relates to established practices, ceremonies, or styles that are passed down through generations. It suggests a connection to the past and familiar ways of doing things. Phrases of example. First, it was a traditional dance, passed down through generations. Second, traditional values are losing ground to a new kind of individualism. Third, he clung to traditional beliefs, resisting the winds of change. Word, May. Description, May is a month of the year, coming after April and before June. It's often associated with warmer weather and blooming flowers. It's a common time for holidays and outdoor activities. Phrases of example. First, may she be safe and well, wherever she is. Second, may you never be too old to dream. Third, may good fortune be yours, whatever you do. Word, son. Description, a male child or offspring. It refers to a boy, typically the child of one's parents. It's a common term for a young male and is often used to show family relationships. Phrases of example. First, my son, do not seek revenge. It will only bring more pain. Second, a son's love is a warm and comforting fire. Third, and he said, "My son, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." Word, sporting. Description, describes someone or something showing enthusiasm, high spirits, and a playful, energetic nature. It can also refer to a willingness to accept challenges or setbacks with good humor and resilience. It conveys a positive and active disposition. Phrases of example. First, he was a man of sporting instinct, eager to test himself against the world. Second, they had a sporting chance of survival if they could only hold on. Third, the sporting world was captivated by her extraordinary talent and skill. Word, square. Description, means having 4 equal sides and 4 right angles, like a shape. It can also describe something that is fair or honest. It's commonly used to describe geometric forms or to suggest impartiality. Phrases of example. First, the sky was a perfect square of blue. Second, the room was square with no windows. Third, the table was a simple square, nothing. Word, consequently. Description, means as a result of something. It shows a cause and effect relationship. It's used to indicate that one thing happened because of another, showing a logical sequence of events. It connects 2 related ideas. Phrases of example. First, consequently, they were forced to abandon their plans. Second, consequently, he felt a profound sense of responsibility. Third, consequently, the mission was deemed a failure. Word, concentration. Description, refers to the ability to focus your mind on a particular thing. It's the mental effort needed to pay attention and avoid distractions, enabling you to think clearly and work effectively. It describes focused attention. Phrases of example. First, his concentration faltered, and the details began to blur. Second, she needed a quiet space for concentration and reflection. Third, without concentration, the world is chaos. Word, warm. Description, describes something that is neither hot nor cold, a comfortable temperature. It can refer to physical temperature or also used to describe feelings like friendliness or welcome. It signifies a pleasant and inviting quality. Phrases of example. First, the sun was warm on his face, and he felt a sense of peace. Second, she felt a warm glow of happiness as she looked at the children. Third, the fire was warm and comforting on a cold winter night. Word, somebody. Description, refers to a person or people, but the specific identity is unknown. It's a nonspecific term to indicate the existence of at least one person. Use it when you don't know who you're talking about. Phrases of example. First, there was somebody at the door. Second, I thought, somebody must have done this. Third, maybe somebody will understand me.